Welcome to In the Middle. I'm Vykky. I'm a wife, a mom, and a leader shaping some of the world's most beloved brands. This is the podcast for all of us figuring it out in real time. In 20 minutes or less, let's get in the middle of it all. I'm so glad you're here. Hey y'all, welcome back to In the Middle. I'm Vykky, and I am so excited to unpack this next episode on being in the middle of waiting well. I don't know about you, but I've gone through many of seasons where I have been waiting for something, and there have been times where I have managed it really well, and other times where I'm sure the Lord was like, wow, you are a whole baby. And there have been the gray areas in between. And what I will say is that every time I am walking through a waiting season, I see patterns, I see things that I struggled with the last time that I really try to work to fine tune the next time so that the waiting, although we know it's inevitable, we can do it a little better each time we have to go through it. And I think that this is something that is applicable across our lives and our seasons of our lives, whether we're waiting on something at work, waiting for something in our marriage, in our friendships, in our relationships, in our health. I'm hoping today that I can share some approaches and strategies that help me in my seasons of waiting. And I just want to make sure that I'm landing with y'all up front that I don't get it right. I still will be anxious about a thing. I think that's just human nature. But when I can pull myself out of the swirl and the spiral as a serial overthinker, I can get back to my home base and get back to the strategies that I know will help me to wait well. And so I hope that this blesses you, and I hope that you can take a little nugget from this and apply it to your waiting season, whether you're in it right now or if you see it on the horizon. And maybe come back to this episode if you find yourself in a waiting season that you didn't see coming, because those often are the hardest ones to navigate, the ones that we can't plan for. All right, so first thing, when you're in a season where you're waiting, I find that having a grateful heart really helps to balance you. And the gratitude shows up in how you are able to look back on seasons past and how God helped you to navigate those areas, or how you worked on something really challenging and you were waiting to see whether or not you're going to get the promotion. And you can think about all the micro moments that helped you, whether it was a nice note from a peer or a manager, or your work was selected to win an award. All those little micro moments kind of fuel your I don't know if y'all remember, and I'm probably dating myself, but the movie Legally Blonde, love Reese Witherspoon. She had this thing that she started called the Snap Cup. And it's something that I still secretly do today. Whenever I get a really nice email at work, I'll put it in a folder. And sometimes if I'm feeling down, I'll go back to that little folder and just reread those emails, and it helps to sort of fill my cup. So that is one way, like just having a grateful heart when you are in that waiting season, when you are trying to navigate something hard, is looking back and being grateful for how far you have come, and knowing that, hey, I'm in sort of like this famine season, I'm in this dry season, and I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling like the next best thing is on its way. You can likely look back at when you started your career, when you started your marriage, when you started your friendships, relationships, and say, man, I have grown, we have grown so much. And you lean on that piece. And it goes from like having this like scarcity mindset to like now, oh, you feel this abundance. You feel like, oh, okay, if this thing happened for me in the past, I truly believe that it can happen again in the future. And so not only does that do like an inner work, I would say, like your like in the church, we would say your spirit man would kind of shift. I would also say how you show up externally also shifts. your language and the things you talk about also shift when you act through gratitude. So the way that you interact with your peers, the way that you interact with your spouse, even if you're in a tough season in your marriage, if you can be grateful for the great years you had together, if you can look back on those years and say, wow, we did this thing. Our family started out super poor and we both got these great careers and we're building this generational wealth for our children. And yeah, we're in a tough season right now, but I saw what happened in the past and I can believe in the future that it'll be the same thing. Gratitude can really, really shift. I think it's one of those almost multipliers, if you will, that if you start to just be grateful and say the gratitudes out loud, those affirmations out loud to yourself, it will do something internally that will then show up in how you show up externally. So it is something that I do daily. On my commute into work, I pray, I say my affirmations, I remind myself of all the ways that God has shown up for me and all the great things that are happening in my life. I think we can overlook the day-to-day things we should be grateful for. Like truly your lights being on, I'm grateful. Like I'm grateful for a fully stocked fridge. I'm grateful for hugs from my family, whatever those things are that we sometimes maybe take for granted. When you're in the waiting season, you have to look for those like micro wins to fill your cup, fill your snap cup, if you will, to really help you move through this season with a little bit of a better heart posture. And that's not a criticism. And it doesn't mean that it's going to accelerate the waiting, but at least the waiting will feel a bit more manageable. Okay, so another way to work on waiting well and being a little bit better about navigating your waiting season is to really know that you have done everything in your power to move that season forward. And if you can definitively say that, then you have to leave the rest to God. And I think at this point, like, I I hope that people know that I'm a believer. If you're, if you're watching this, listening to this, I am a believer. And candidly, I think that that is my biggest unlock for navigating a waiting season is that I know I'm not waiting alone. Of course, I have an incredible community around me. My husband is fantastic and such a rock for me, and I have a great friend group as well. But ultimately, I am so grounded in the fact that God is going to get the glory in everything that happens in and through my life. And so, however long I need to wait on something, I know it is by design, and I know that ultimately He has a plan for my life, and it's a great plan. So, with that in mind, that's the spiritual side. In the natural, there are things that we have to do in order to make the thing that we want come to fruition if it's in God's plan and God's will. So I'll give you an example. My early in our marriage, we were trying to conceive and it was not happening. And that was probably one of my hardest waiting seasons because it seemed like everyone around us were having kids. And I did not grow up as someone who I didn't babysit. I didn't grow up with a lot of cousins around me. I have a bunch of cousins, but we grew up in different states. And so I wasn't one of those girls who was like always babysitting or playing babies. And that just wasn't me. I was an athlete. I cheered, I danced, I played volleyball, all the things. I was in student government, like truly, truly, like you're super student athlete. And I candidly did not think about wanting to have kids until Emmanuel and I reconnected. And I just assumed that it would happen like that, and it didn't. And that was probably one of the first times in my life where I really had to wait. And I I didn't fully understand like how long I would have to wait and what I could do about it really. And so initially it almost felt like um, I didn't have any control in the scenario. And for if you've ever worked with me or if you worked on a team that I had the opportunity to lead, you'll likely hear me say something like, I don't like to be in the passenger seat. I want to be in the driver's seat. I don't like the victim mindset. And in the same way, I don't want to be a victim in my season while I'm waiting. And so, what does that mean? That means that I am talking to doctors. We went to doctors. We did all the testing. We did all the things. Of course, my doctor said, move more, lose weight. That's always the baseline. I did my level best. I'm continuing to do my level best. But once I checked all those boxes, did the research that I could manage to do, because I think, and this is sort of like a little bit of a tangent, but I will just encourage you, whatever the waiting is that you're doing, whether it's wanting to grow your family or on the career side or on the health side, you have to be careful how much content you consume on the internet about whatever the thing is, because it can send you down this really unhelpful rabbit hole that can actually make your waiting season worse because you start to compare to other people's stories, or she got it faster, or she did this thing and I did all those things and it still didn't work out for me. And like that actually doesn't help you and your waiting season. So you really have to be honest with yourself and your capacity on what you can do and what you can manage and what's not going to trigger your waiting season to be even harder than it already is. So once I knew that we had done everything that was in our power from a waiting perspective, I had to let it go. I really had to just let it go. And I know it is cliche, and I know that it is not something that you probably will want to hear, but like it did happen after I let it go. And I believe that to be true in other areas of my life as well. Job hunting, I would apply to things that candidly I had way more experience and would not get a call back. And my little ego was hurt. But when it was the role for me, the doors opened up and they flew open. So I knew that that job was for me. So I would just encourage you to be honest with yourself. Have I done the thing? Do you want to start? You want to run a marathon and the thought of it is so daunting, but you haven't even tried a 5K, or you haven't even bought the shoes, or you haven't even built your plan to say, okay, I'm going to run a mile today, 3 miles in 2 days. Like, have you done every single thing in your power to move your waiting season through? Or are you sitting there sort of feeling sorry for yourself, looking at how others are doing, being distracted by the outside noise? All of those things can delay your waiting season, and you may not even know the way it's being sabotaged. So I would just encourage you to gut check and say, okay, I've done all the things. I've done every single thing in my power. And if you know that to be true, then you have to give it to God and trust that He has a plan for you. And I am believing that there will be no lack in your life while you're waiting, whether it is for um, kids or it's for the next role. I just believe that He finds ways and creates opportunities for you to be fulfilled. And so, maybe to offer another tangible example, is like while you're waiting, if the goal is children, maybe you serve in children's ministry. That's not to say, like, oh, this is going to fully fill your heart, but being around kids, if that's your desire and that's your goal, get your snack cup filled just a little bit by serving in children's ministry. Just about every church that I've ever been a part of, the thing that is always consistent is that they always need more volunteers in children's ministry. In the same way, if you want to grow in your career, but you haven't had the opportunity to be a people manager, why not just unofficially mentor someone that's more junior in your department or outside of your department? Or if you're wanting to get ready for a people management role, why not connect and do informational interviews with people managers in your department or outside, or even do an informational interview with someone outside of your organization that you admire or you think they're a strong leader. So there are things that you can do right now while you're in the waiting season that it's not the exact thing, but it gives you the exposure. It gives you, like, if you have played sports or you are a big weightlifter, getting the reps in, getting those reps helps you to build your muscle. In the same way, you can get those reps in by mentoring, volunteering, doing something else that is adjacent to the thing that you want, and it just gives you a little bit of that closeness to it. So um, I hope that that's helpful. I know it's not the easiest thing to hear. It's not, and again, I am someone I truly like. The only thing I'm going to ever share is things that I'm actually doing and believing in. And I do have to have those hard and honest conversations with myself. Like, Vykky, did you do everything in your power? And there are times when it's really quiet and I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't prepare as much as I could have, or I didn't follow up the way that I should have. And it's not to say like, oh, you're being punished for those things, but you really have to leave everything on the floor. You're going to understand that I am a sports girly. If you heard my origin story episode, you know that I started my career in sports. So I'm always using sports analogies. But like, I truly believe you have to leave it all on the floor, on the field, on the court, whatever is your sport du jour, to know that you've done well in your waiting season and what was in your power to manage. Okay, so my last approach in how I work on waiting well is really staying open to how the thing that I'm hoping for comes to life. I find that sometimes, especially as believers, we can just say, oh, the Lord gave us this thing and it's going to happen like this. And I find that sometimes we maybe put some things in the Lord that He actually didn't tell us. And so we are chasing hard after something that was never promised to us. So I would just encourage you to think about how committed you are to this thing. If you are hoping to be in a committed relationship or a marriage, does he really have to be 6'5"? Like, does he have to be 6'5" and you're a smooth 5'2"? Or can he be a nice guy who is 5'10", who pays his bills and his actions match his words, In the same way of, I want to have a child. Does it mean that you have to conceive it naturally? Can we tap into modern medicine, IVF, IUI? And I know there are some financial implications that come with that, but are we open to that? Are we open to adoption? Are we open to other ways of parenting in non-traditional sense? Like, again, back to the idea of volunteering and serving, fostering. Sometimes I think we can get so dead set on the way the thing has to happen. The job has to be in Atlanta. The job has to have this title. You may end up with a title that's a lot more vague, but you make more money. The work is more fulfilling. The leadership is fantastic, but your title is generalist. Does it really, really matter? I would just encourage you, as I encourage myself, like, we can't be so married and committed to this idea that we actually miss the blessing, the opportunity that is headed our way. It could truly be right in front of you. The guy who you always see at Starbucks on Friday, y'all get the same latte, but he happens to be, not dressed the best. Spoiler alert, all wives really help their husband with their clothes. So that's small potatoes. Like, could you be a little bit more open in areas like that? Or, you've had a really great working relationship with a leader in a different department. You always feel energized when you leave their presence. You love the work that they're doing, but you are dead set on the track that you're on right now. Could that role, could that team, could that department actually be the path you're supposed to be on? So I would encourage you to think about that and really have an honest conversation with yourself, to step back and say, am I actually the person keeping myself in this waiting season? And that can be really hard because we We like to have it all figured out. And I'm saying we because, of course, present company included, I am very linear in my thinking sometimes. I want it has to go A, B, C, and D. And so it takes me being very present in mind to say, okay, Vykky, is this you? Are you over engineering this thing? Or is the ultimate goal you want to have a role where you feel fulfilled, enough money that sustains your family for today and for the future? And you want to have a little flexibility so that you can be present with your family. If I zoom it out that much, it opens up the world so much more than saying, I have to have this title, making this amount of money, and it has to be at this organization. And so, in the same way, I think we can apply that in a variety of areas of our lives, whether it's your health, it is even your friendship. Like, I think sometimes it's so much easier to get along with people who are so similar to you. And I'm not saying you have to go and find an opposites attract friend, but there is power in having relationships with people who differ in opinions in certain areas. Of course, will always be, you want to be cool and have relationships with someone that you ultimately share the same core values. But I think there is power in having friendships with people who value things a little differently. Like, I have friends who clothes, things like that, it doesn't really matter to them, but great travel is really important in curating a great travel experience. They're not big on gifts, but they want to have experiences. And having those types of people in my life actually help me to honor and value those things more. So I think we all can do a much better job in reflecting on how rigid we are on the thing that we're waiting on. So if you're in a waiting season right now and you're thinking about, why isn't this thing happening? This might be a good opportunity for you to take a step back and say, am I over engineering this thing? This might be a good opportunity for you to say, am I over engineering this thing? Am I trying to be so specific about how this thing comes to pass that I actually may be missing the blessing and the opportunity that is already ready for me, but it doesn't look the way that I expected it to look? Okay, friends, as a recap, we're going to unpack my 3 truths from our time together today. The first one is gratitude grounds us. When we lead with a grateful heart, when we can reflect on those little moments of gratitude and finding those moments where we can say, oh, I'm thankful for this thing, even if it's the smallest thing, a kind hello, a great email, a hug from your kid, seeing a project be celebrated in a meeting, whatever it is, put that in your snap cup and add that to your gratitude snap cup, your bank, to make your heart feel a bit happier and to hold you over in your waiting season. The second truth is action aligns us. Know that you have done everything in your power to bring this thing to pass. And if you know that, then you have to leave the rest to the Lord. You have to just let it go. And actually, it should give you a sense of confidence that I left it all on the floor. And when it's time, that thing will open up for me. And the third and final truth is openness frees us. It actually does. When you make the decision to not be so rigid about the way this thing has to happen, the package it has to come in. She doesn't have to be 36, 24, 36 to be the woman for you. How much money has to be in your bank account before you actually bet on yourself to start the business? If you can remove the package a bit, it will give you so much more freedom in your season of waiting. And with that, I want to pose a few questions for you to reflect on across the week. In the comments, at some point across the week, share what you're grateful for. A small thing, a big thing, something in the middle. I want to hear what you're grateful for. And then maybe also think about what's one action that you can take to help you in your waiting season. Do you need to follow up with someone? Do you need to say sorry? Do you need to just start the thing versus kind of revving on whatever project you have been putting off? And lastly, might be the hardest thing, is that honest conversation with yourself. Have you been too rigid about the package that you are envisioning for this thing that you want? I think you have to sit down, have a moment to kind of meditate and reflect and say, am I open? Am I really open to how this thing is supposed to come to life? Or have I almost choked it out because it has to be so specific? And it's okay to be honest and realize maybe how you've been standing in your own way. When you get to the other side of it, it actually brings so much more freedom. So I really hope that this helps you. Even if you're not in a waiting season, you may have a friend or a family member that is, and maybe consider sharing this episode with them. And maybe a waiting season is probably coming, like it's coming for all of us. And we'll come back and listen to it again. There are nuggets here that I even just today had to kind of reflect on. Me over engineering something, me feeling like this thing has to be in a package. So I'm not sitting at a place where I have completely arrived in the destination. I am truly right there in it with you right now. And so this is a constant loop of reminding myself. And I hope that just encourages you and makes you feel a little less alone in this waiting season. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to In the Middle. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend and click subscribe so you never miss an honest conversation about life in the middle. I'll see you next time.